Good evening, and welcome to tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals hearing. Let me introduce some members of town government that assist this board. To my left is Martin Simon, Assistant Town Attorney. To his left is Planner in the Planning Department. You are all here tonight seeking relief from the Smithtown zoning ordinances, and it's our job to try to help you achieve the relief you are requesting whenever possible. It's up to you to provide this board with precise and accurate information so we can make a decision based on the facts presented. This board must consider the 5 area variance considerations in order to render a decision, and they are as follows. Number 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. Number 2, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance. Number 3, whether the requested area variance is substantial. Number 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the board but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the variance. Procedures for tonight's meeting. Cases will be called in the order they are advertised. When you are called, please present your certificates of postings and mailings to Mr. Donadio. Then you will be asked to go to the podium where you state your name and address for the record and proceed to tell us why you need your variance. At the end of your presentation, if anyone in the audience would like to speak on your case, they will be given one opportunity to do so. Then the applicant can come back to the podium to answer their concerns. Once the public hearing is closed, no further information will be accepted concerning the case. There are 3 ways to find out about your case. You could stay after the hearing, but there's no guarantee that your case will be acted on tonight. You can call the planning office tomorrow after 12 p.m., or you could wait and be notified by mail. We do have some adjournments tonight. The first adjournment is case 18729, Matthew and Catherine Ventura. That has been adjourned to July 12th. The next case is case 18725, Bassa Kaufman of Smithtown, LLC. That has been adjourned to June 28th. And case number 18347, La Familia La Familia, located at 250 West Main Street, that has been
Okay. The first case on the agenda, case number 18706, James and Margaret Kilker, 57 Dorchester Road, Smithtown. The location of the property is the west side of Dorchester Road, 249 feet north of Cedar Ridge Avenue. The property is zoned R15. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum side yard setback from 16 feet to 5 feet, total side yards from 34 feet to 29 feet for an existing 80-square-foot wood shed.
Is the applicant here? Is there anyone here for this case? We'll move on to the next case, and if they show up, we'll get them in.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18717, Antonis Helen, 35 Timber Ridge Drive, Comac. The location of the property is the south side of Timber Ridge Drive, 154 feet east of Fleetwood Drive. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum rear yard setback from 50 feet to 41 feet for a proposed 175-square-foot, one-story addition with balcony above.
Good evening.
Good evening. Antonis Helen, 35 Timber Ridge Drive. Comac, New York, 11725.
On your behalf?
Sure, she can.
Fine, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Helen Bogdanos.
Could you spell your last name so we get it correct?
Bogdanos.
Okay,
Helen, Helen.
fine. And
And I'm the professional of record, the engineer. I'm a structural engineer, designed the building. And we filed for a little extension on the back, as you see, because he has a very small kitchen right now, and he wanted to enlarge his kitchen. That was the only reason. And it's a minor request, I believe. The owner can speak as well.
Yeah, we were just looking to square off the house.
you just use the microphone so we
yeah.
could hear you,
Yeah.
please.
We bought the house last July, done some extensive renovations already, and I just want to extend my kitchen a little further and square off the house. Really doesn't extend more than what my house is right now.
Okay.
Just that I have an odd lot, so the setback is kind of,
Okay, fine. All right, thank you.
you're welcome.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to be heard on this application? No? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Has anyone came in for James and Margaret Kilker? No?
The next case on the agenda, case number 18719, Abhinav and Geeta Kumar, 24 Arrowwood Drive, St. James. The location of the property is the northeast corner of Arrowwood Drive and Old Wood Road. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the front yard setback on Arrowwood Drive from 60 feet to 58 feet, to reduce the front yard setback on Old Wood Road from 60 feet to 54 feet for a proposed 255-square-foot garage addition to an existing 398-square-foot attached garage, a 114-square-foot first-floor addition, and a 244-square-foot second-story addition.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Abhinav Kumar. So I'm at 24 Arrowwood Drive, St. James, and I'd like my architect, Michael Macrina, to speak for me, if that's okay.
Fine.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening. Can you state your name and
Yes.
address, spell your last name so we get it correct, and give your address, please?
Michael Macrina, last name's M-A-C-R-I-N. Street, Stony Brook, New York, 790.
Okay.
My clients are looking to expand their garage. It's a small garage and add a mudroom, laundry room, and there's an existing bedroom on the first floor they're looking to expand. Small. And previously, the previous owner, the same variance that I did the plans for as well, they ended up selling the property to Mr. So the new application that we're submitting is a setback, but with a smaller garage than was previously submitted. The project will have a nice aesthetic for the neighborhood, actually add interest, and not having any adverse effect on the environmental condition of the neighborhood. Adding bedrooms, we're just expanding the spaces that are there. That's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the, excuse me. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
couple just came in, maybe. Is there anyone here for James and Margaret Kilker? James and Margaret Kilker? No? All right.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18727, Peter Hildebrand, 31 Violet Road, Kings Park. The location of the property is the north side of Violet Road, 401 feet east of Highland Drive. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum rear yard from 35 feet to 17 feet for a proposed 208 square foot second-story deck, to reduce the side yard setback from 12 feet to 0 for an existing 112 square foot shed and an existing 64 square foot shed.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Peter Hildenbrand.
I'm Donna Hildebrand, his wife.
Yeah, the existing that we have off the back of our house is deteriorating and needs to be replaced. It needs to be replaced because it's getting old. It's unsafe right now, and we want to increase the size of it.
How much are you increasing the size?
Gee, I don't have the paperwork in front of me.
It's going to be like 16 foot. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, on the drawing, it says 5 foot by 15 foot long.
That's the existing, that's the one that's there now.
That's what's there now?
Yes,
Okay. And then you're going to make it bigger?
yes. Yes, I am.
How much bigger?
I don't,
Just give me a rough idea.
Is it a 16 foot you're making it?
yeah, it's 16 foot wide, and I guess it goes out 20 foot maybe.
Okay.
It's going to be substantially bigger than what's there.
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
That's what you're asking, so.
it
okay.
is.
But it'll meet the setback, so.
It will meet the rear yard setback, not the side yard setback. I'm sorry. It will not meet the rear yard setback, it will meet the side yard setback.
Okay.
So they're reducing the rear yard from 35 to 17.
But it is up in the air. It's not on the ground.
Yes, second.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application? Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion carried.
Everything else is good. Do you want to ask again, or just keep going?
Just keep going.
Okay.
When we're halfway through, we'll ask.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18728, Family Residences, 28 Schuyler Drive, Comac. The location of the property is the north side of Schuyler Drive, 531 feet west of Endicott Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the front yard from 25% to 54% for existing driveways, to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the side yard from 25% to 83% for existing paving.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you? Ooh. My name is Maria Abels. I'm a representative from Family Residences and Essential Enterprises. We have given power of attorney to our architect, Frank Restituto.
Okay, fine. Thank you. I'm sorry? Oh, excuse me. Spelling of your last name.
Sorry. It's Maria, Maria, last name Abels, Abels.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Frank, same thing. Introduce yourself, spell your last name so we get it correct, and your address, please.
Frank Restituto, Restiti, 18 Crabapple Lane, Comac.
Okay.
All right. The matter at hand is the construction of a new paved driveway in the front of a residence located at 28 Schuyler Drive in Comac. The property is located in an R10 zone, and my client is requesting an increase of the maximum permitted paved surface in the front yard from 25% to. My client, Family Residences and Essential Enterprises,
Can you repeat that again?
oh,
The percentage.
54%,
Okay.
right? We agree?
You didn't get
Yeah,
that?
it's advertised as 54%.
It's reduced from 25% to.
Increasing from 25% to 54%.
Okay. My client, Family Residences and Essential Enterprises, the organization that is operating this residence, is a widely respected, not-for-profit organization providing support services and specialty health care for individuals with developmental disabilities and traumatic brain injuries. With regard to the construction of the new paved driveway, it will provide a critical need for an on-site parking for the supporting staff and visiting healthcare personnel. In an effort to provide these support services and needed health care for the residents, there are a number of vehicles that visit the residents on a daily basis. It is therefore necessary and desired to have the vehicles park on-site rather than in the street. The on-site parking will alleviate the stress of additional cars in the street and will provide less crowded and more residential appearance in the neighborhood. The additional paved area did not require any trees or shrubs to be removed from the site, nor does it adversely affect the environment or change the overall appearance of the neighborhood. In an effort to be good neighbors to enhance the overall appearance of the property and to work with the adjoining neighbors, additional shrubs and mulch have been installed along the front of the residence, as well as a vinyl fencing along the paved area. Considering the enormous benefits that Family Residence provides for those individuals that need their services and who appreciate the benefits of living in a wholesome and residential environment, my client requests approval of this variance. Also, approval of this variance would go a long way to relieve some of the stresses of on-street parking that the adjoining homeowners have expressed. And it would be a benefit to the community by enabling staff to avoid parking on the street. Hopefully, this will create a mutually beneficial environment for all. Thank you.
Thank you. How many people live in this house?
I'm going to direct the
Sure.
questions.
I need you to state your name and address and spell your last name.
I'm Nancy Bajaya. Is this working? I speak loud anyway. B-U-G-E-I-A. Did you get that? Okay. And I'm the operations director of.
Okay.
There are 5 individuals that reside at our Comac IRA.
Okay. Do any of them drive?
No,
Drives.
no
Okay.
one drives.
So on a daily basis, how many people show up at that house, roughly?
We have 3 rotating shifts, 8-hour shifts. So anywhere from 2 to 3 people could be on for any given shift
Okay, so 3 cars.
at minimum. Plus they have in their own personal vehicle, a van, which actually is pictured. So,
Visitors?
sure, once in a while, their moms or dads may come by, their siblings. Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No comments, really. I would just point out to the board that the request to increase the paving in the front yard is a 54% increase of the maximum permitted paving, and the side yard is 70%.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Come on up. Good evening.
Good evening. Jean Clementi, Clemente, 28 Ravenwood Drive, Kings Park, New York.
Okay.
My family has lived at 26 Schuyler Drive for 62 years. These people showed up 2 years ago, 2020, I would say, and they went ahead and they put this driveway in when they already have a driveway that can hold 6 vehicles. Nobody that works there is parking in the driveway. Only the van parks in the new driveway that's right next to my family's house. They went ahead and did this knowing full well that it was against all the ordinances. But they figure it's better to come here and ask for forgiveness than ask for permission, right? Because they could have had, the neighborhood could have been here to say, don't do it. It looks like a parking lot. I understand we need to house people that have disabilities. That's fine. And we have no problem with people. But to put a parking lot there is absolutely ridiculous. To say they're parking on the street is incorrect. They took away the spot that was on my side of the house because now they have a driveway there, so I can't fit a car there. The other driveway that fits 6 cars already, if not more, they expanded the apron there, so they took away more street parking on that side. So, and I'd like you to come by and look and see how many people are parking in the driveway, or if the van that's parked in the new driveway that they didn't get permission for is just always sitting there. So I think this should be denied just because, A, they went about it illegally, knowing full well they must have resources, legal help, and everything else. They're not like regular people that don't know the law. And they just thought this would be good. My mother was appalled before she passed away, saying, look what they've done to the neighborhood. I've lived here for 62 years, but look what they've done to the neighborhood. So I vote against it. And I'm sure my neighbor on the other side, who is a disabled person, would go against it as well, as he's been so frustrated, only he's been ill. So.
Okay. Let me just ask you a question. The larger driveway on the right-hand side, as you're looking at that picture right there, is that being used?
You see how it's used there, with
Yeah,
one
but
car in it?
Yeah, but that's what,
Very rarely. The workers don't park on that driveway because then they'd have to move when the other one comes. They're parking in the street more than on the driveway. They wanted that driveway to park the van. Don't ask me why. You could ask them because perhaps they feel differently, but I feel very strongly that this looks like a parking lot. And this is in the middle of a street. That new driveway they put in is directly across the street from the other driveway. So when those people back out, now they have a driveway exactly across the street. If you look at most neighborhoods anyway, driveways don't align like that. Again, they went about this knowing full well they needed a variance, but they chose to go ahead and put everything in and then come here and ask.
all right. Thank you.
You gonna thought? And my sister
You'll-
sent, all right, well, I didn't walk away completely. My sister sent a letter asking what the side yard part was. Nobody responded, so I don't know why you guys don't, you asked for us to write or respond, and we did, and you didn't respond to us.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
My name is Charles Kelly, K-E-L-L-Y. I reside at 26 Schuyler Drive. I've been there for 62 years. We have this organization, Free, who operates a house there, a residence for disabled people. The existing driveway on the east side of their property was a driveway that had a single wide curb cut, which was the original curb cut. And as the driveway went up towards the house, the driveway widened. They have since paved the grass area to right up to their property line, and then widened the curb cut, so now it's a double wide curb cut on the east side of their property. So they have a double wide, full length driveway with a double wide curb cut. So that eliminated 12 feet of curbing where people could park. On my side, the west side of their property, they installed a brand-new 10-foot wide by 40-foot long driveway. Again, knowing that they needed a variance, they just totally disregarded, and they put it in. And now they're here begging for forgiveness. They also put a curb cut there. On the east side of my property, which adjoins the west side of their property, I used to be able to park a car because I have limited parking in front of my house because I have a fire hydrant in front of my house. I can no longer fit a vehicle there because there's only about 12 to 14 feet of curbing there between now my existing apron and their new apron. So that's one less spot on the street that can be parked in. Overall, they have eliminated 24 feet of curbside parking. I go out there every day. I can see how many people park in their driveways. Occasionally, there's 2 vehicles in the double wide driveway. Sometimes the van is many times parked in their new single wide driveway. And many times there are what I believe are employee cars parked in the street. So they didn't get their employees off the street to park there. They don't have one car behind the other car usually. And people, if they did, they would have to, as the shifts change, people would have to shuffle the cars around. That's not the case. I have a couple of pictures on my cell phone. You could see 2 cars parked in the street, 1 car parked in the street. It's not, that's common. So this whole need for this extra driveway is a fallacy, right? I request that you deny the variance and that the property be restored to its prior condition. It looks like a parking lot. My property value has gone down already because I have a house that does for disabled people, and now it looks like a parking lot next to me, so bringing down my property value even more. I request that you deny it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else like to be heard on this application? No one else? Would you like to come back to answer some of their concerns?
Sorry, I'm Nancy. I know one of the concerns was the traffic on the street. The house opened in December of 2020. One of the, within the first 24 hours was a complaint from one of the neighbors about the cars on the street. So that was an extreme concern from the beginning. And we understand there's also a lot of, misunderstanding for what we're trying to do in this home. So we didn't deliberately build a driveway where we weren't asking for forgiveness. I don't know what that means. Essentially, we wanted to be good neighbors. We want to get the traffic off. The only reason why sometimes we are parking 1 car in the on the street is because our shifts, some of our shift changes at 3 o'clock. We're mindful that school is still in. There is a school bus stop that's right there. So we don't want to shuffle and back out cars necessarily and block each other in until those school buses have dropped off the children from across the street. So that's actually, we're mindful of that because they do get home between the 3:30 mark, the kids. So, but we actually did this to try to alleviate the stress off of the neighborhood. We don't want to be a burden. We don't want to be looked at as anything but a good neighbor. And we were trying to do the right thing here. It was nothing more than that, so.
Thank you. You one opportunity, sir.
Mr. Chairman, before you close the hearing, just to put it on the record, we did receive a written email from a neighbor at 28 Schuyler Drive who expressed some concerns about the overpaving and obviously doesn't want the board to approve it. It's what it's requesting.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18730, Vincent Iantelli, 113 Cornell Drive, Comac. The location of the property, the north side of Cornell Drive, 815 feet east of Edna Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the required setback of existing retaining walls A, B, C, E, and F to the property line from 3 feet to 0, to reduce the required setback of a 6-foot fence to a 4-foot retaining wall from 4 feet to 0, and to increase the height of a 6-foot fence on top of a 4-foot retaining wall from 6 feet to 10 feet for wall F.
Good evening.
Good evening, how are you? My name is Vincent Iantelli. I'm the owner of 113 Cornell Drive, Comac, New York, 11725. Last name is Iannittelli, and this is my wife, Taylor. We bought the property 4 years ago. All retaining walls were already existing in the spots that they were. They were all old railroad ties that were collapsing. So ultimately, I went ahead and replaced the retaining walls. Just figuring they were existing retaining walls and really didn't know about the permits that were needed, right, and a variance that was going to be needed. But ultimately, this is not going to produce an impact on adjacent properties or the neighborhood because it is an in-place replacement. It is needed in order to prevent the neighboring property, which is at a higher level, from collapsing onto my property. There was already a retaining wall and a fence in this location, which did not impact the neighboring property, and the replacement will ensure that the earth will be stable on both sides of the retaining wall. The retaining wall will not impact the neighborhood because it is in the rear yard as well as the side yard, and it generally cannot be seen by the public. But the request is also not substantial because it is comparable in size to the prior retaining wall, and the purpose of the replacement was merely to strengthen the ability of the wall to keep the two different leveled properties geologically stable. The benefit cannot be achieved by alternatives because the different levels of the two properties require some type of retaining wall to prevent the higher level neighboring property from collapsing onto my property. The variance would not cause an adverse effect on the environment because the variance is not substantial. The new retaining wall will not change the environment in any way from the prior retaining wall. The wall will prevent excessive runoff from other lots onto my lot or from the applicant's steep slope onto the neighboring properties. The difficulty was not created by myself because my property is in a steep slope area and the physical geography of the lot requires retaining walls to strengthen and stabilize the higher levels from collapsing onto lower tiers of the property. If there were no retaining walls permitted on this lot, most of the land would be unusable. Retaining walls are the only way on this lot to create and stabilize level areas to allow myself and the successors in title to use and enjoy the property. And ultimately, it also increased value of my neighboring properties as well because it went from honestly being falling railroad tie and pretty much a jungle to nice Cambridge pavers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It looks like the southern portion of your western retaining wall, does that encroach on your neighbor's property?
So that's actually their property, their wall. It was a shared wall with the neighbor prior to them selling the house, so that it was a split wall. So technically that wall is theirs.
All right, it's only
That's
a foot.
encroaching. Yes.
It's only a foot.
Right, whatever, yeah, it's only like 18 inches of wall or something like that
Right.
on their property, yeah.
Okay.
So that is their wall.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone on the board have any questions on the application?
No.
Planning?
Just one question for the applicant.
Yep.
Here we go. You said that the retaining wall that's going over the property line, that's encroaching on your neighbor's
Yep.
property is actually his wall.
Yep.
Is it also a Cambridge paving stone wall? Did you replace the railroad tie retaining wall with the Cambridge?
So everything was replaced, but there's kind of a thing going on. So the neighbor who sold, she also worked with the contractor that I was working with to replace that wall. And I actually, as being a good neighbor, said I would split it with them because it was completely their wall. That she actually moved it 2 feet onto my property, which ended up now being my thing. So that's kind of that one wall is what's the issue it's on the property line.
Okay.
And I also have, I don't know, I even have a signed notarized document from the new neighbors stating that he is in agreement with the wall and that it's our shared wall. So I don't know if this is something I could submit as well to the I did submit it to the building department.
You may want to make it part of your file, just in case
Yeah.
down the road anybody asks.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take it. Okay, thank you. Anything else, please?
That's it? Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Are James and Margaret Kilker here?
Move on.
Move on.
Okay. The next case on the agenda is case number 18734, Mikhail Constance and Jamie Cristoforo, 18 Riesling Court, Comac. The location of the property, the northeast corner of Riesling Court and Jill Drive. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the front yard setback from lot line on Jill Drive from 10 feet to 5 feet for an existing 6-foot fence in the required front yard.
Good evening.
Good evening. Jamie Cristoforo, Christoforou. My husband Michael, 18 Riesling Court, Comac, New York. We have an existing, we bought the house 10 years ago. The fence that is currently there with this requested variance was there when we purchased the house. We're requesting to, as you articulated earlier, have the fence that's greater than 4 feet in the required front yard to reduce the front yard setback from the lot line from 10 feet to 5 feet, and then it's for an existing 6-foot fence. At this point, it's been there for this long. We don't believe it's any environmental nuances or has any impact on our neighbors. Any questions?
It doesn't have any impact on any traffic whatsoever.
And no,
Any traffic, no.
no.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
No. Planning?
No, thank you.
Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18735, Cassandra and Kevin Snyder, 20 Dale Lane, Smithtown. The location of the property, the south side of Dale Lane, 520 feet west of Sandalwood Drive. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to permit environmentally sensitive lands to be altered depth of groundwater less than 10 feet, for a proposed 652 square foot second-story addition.
Good evening.
Good evening. Kevin Schneider, 20 Dale Lane, Smithtown, New York, 11787. We are requesting relief from the board to expand over second story. The proposed addition requires a variance for altering environmentally sensitive lands where depth to water is equal or less than 10 feet. The project is not a substantial variance request. The addition is to be built over the existing footprint of the house. The proposed addition will comply with all other zoning requirements and will have no significant impact on the environment, will not affect adjacent properties, and will fit in with the character and nature of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
What is the test hole? Do you know?
Where we hit groundwater, it was at 9 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18736, Mary and Gary Scheid, 86 Roxbury Drive, Comac. The location of the property is the north side of Roxbury Drive, 303 feet east of Crest Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum required side yard setback from 12 feet to 9 feet, to reduce the required total side yards from 28 feet to 23 feet, to increase the maximum gross floor area of the lot from 30% to 31%, for a proposed 321 square foot attached front entry garage, 225 square foot first floor addition, and 574 square foot second floor addition.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Gary Sheedy from 86 Roxbury Drive, Comac, New York, 11725. Tonight, I'm here to request a side yard variance decrease of 3 feet from 12 feet to 9 feet, and a total of 25 feet to 28 feet to 25 feet. In addition, a area increase of 31% from the maximum of 30%. Our proposed project is to actually demolish our existing garage. The house is a Cape house. Garage, at the time it was built, is very narrow. It's very difficult to actually park a car in and utilize it. In addition, we are looking to add a second floor addition above this with a master bedroom suite. And to do that over an existing garage of 10 feet wide is pretty narrow to put a new bedroom in. So that was the increase of the additional space for the additional side yard requirement of the setback. In addition, a mudroom, we were adding a mudroom off the back of that as well, of the garage, and a increase of our kitchen to include a eat-in area kitchen at the back of the house, but that doesn't encroach on the rear setback. One other thing, I'm sorry. The overall architecture of the house won't have an impact to the area, as there are other homes in the area. This house will now look more like a colonial versus a Cape house. The other houses in the area are colonials mixed with ranches and capes as well. So it won't have any adverse environmental impact as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18733, Richard Benanti, 2 Tanyard Place, Fort Salonga. The location of the property is the southwest corner of Tanyard Place and Truscott Path. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum required front yard setback from 60 feet to 26 feet on Tanyard Place to permit a 14-foot by 48-foot temporary living trailer as a secondary single-family dwelling for 8 months for proposed additions to an existing single-family dwelling.
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Richard Benanti. It's spelled Benanti. The address is 2 Tanyard Place in Fort Salonga, New York,
11768, yeah.
68.
Great.
Sorry, I stutter.
Right.
So I have my architect here, and this is my wife, Karen. I have my architect here, and I brought him here to speak on my behalf.
Fine.
All right?
Okay. Karen, are you going to speak?
Probably not.
No, okay, fine. Sir, you state your name, spell your last name so we get it correct for the
Sure.
record, and your address, please.
Yes, my name is Stephen Keller, Keller. As Richard just mentioned, I'm the architect for the renovation project for his residence. My address is 17 Keeler, Keeler Street, Huntington, New York, 11743. We're here before the board this evening to ask for relief on a temporary trailer to be used for approximately 8 months during the construction period of the full house renovation. It is, as shown on the site plan, going to be located on the front yard, if permission is granted, between the garage, and there's a cluster of trees and bushes between the street and the location of the proposed trailer. We feel that it's not a substantial request because it's temporary in nature, and we're hoping to find favor with the board to grant us permission to kind of allow us to continue to pull the remaining part of the house apart and allow the homeowners to stay on the premise with the, is it 1 dog, 2 cats? With 1 dog and 2 cats, 3 cats, so that they're not displaced. We looked into some outside or off-premise rentals, but between the animals and the fact that we were less than a year, we were unsuccessful to find a location in another rental.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's no location on the side of the house to put that trailer? I mean, it's going to be sitting right in front of the house.
Well, we have to tie into the existing electric and water.
It was actually the sewer that was the main.
If you're going to speak, could you use the microphone, please?
The sewer or cesspool is on our front lawn, and the trailer people told us that it would have to go near there. There's like a corner, and there are trees and bushes that aren't actually represented well in the pictures, because the pictures were taken in early spring, but it fills in, and the trailer would be pretty much hidden from our neighbors.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Just to add, we had looked at some of the property between the 25A side and the south end of the house, but the elevation had dropped and they couldn't pump the sewer or waste up the hill to the current septic system.
Okay, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
The only question I would have is, it's likely this would definitely be done within a year, right?
Yep.
So that if we conditioned it that it's removed within 1 year or prior to the issuance of a CO, you wouldn't have a problem
We'd
with
be
that?
very happy with that. We're already under construction. We're trying to move things along as quickly as possible, doing the things that don't involve moving them out of the house until we have permission from the board.
Thank you.
You would think I wouldn't, talk. It is our intention to actually move back in as quickly as possible. So the plan is, just to get us our bedroom and a bathroom, and then we're going to, move back in. So I'm anticipating that will probably take 4 months or so, but I don't know exactly.
All right, thank you. Planning?
I just want to ask a couple of quick questions, if you don't mind. Currently, are the applicants living in the house during construction right now?
Currently, we have walled off the south end of the house. They're living in the house because we haven't gutted the kitchen or the bathroom. And it's just been the old family room that had no plumbing in it. And we've started to go to the garage side, which is on the north side of the house, and working on that. We made sure that we have all egress and smoke and carbon monoxide currently functioning. But eventually, we'll need to get to the interior of the house, and that's going to displace them.
Okay. The reason I ask is that yesterday, the chairman and I drove by to do an on-site inspection.
Yes.
And to me, we didn't discuss it, but to me, it actually looked like there was nobody living in the house because the house looked like Beirut. So I couldn't imagine that anybody was actually living in the house. So the reason I asked if you were living there is because if you weren't, what are your arrangements right now? But they are
Right.
actually
No,
living in the house.
they're camped out, and everything is happening quickly. We're not trying to waste any time. That's why, we're trying to truncate. So we'd be more than happy with a 1-year time limit for the trailer.
Okay. And just one other question.
Sure.
It's just the both of you and the 4 small children. Is there anybody else that's going to be living with you in the trailer?
No, my son.
Okay. The only reason I asked, because if it was just the 2 of you and the pets, if you could go with a slightly smaller unit, to be less visible, but if you have other people there.
And this was actually the smallest that they had.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
That's it?
That's it.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to be heard on this application? You have a motion to close, excuse me. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18726, Giuseppe and Katarina Abracati. The location of the property is Veterans Memorial Highway in Comac, the north side of Veterans Memorial Highway, 210 feet east of Maple Lawn Drive. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the required minimum lot frontage from 100 feet to 88 feet for lot numbers 1, 2, and 3 within the subdivision known as Abracati Plat, number 1188.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. I've submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to Mr. Donadio. As this board well knows, there are certain variances, even in a subdivision, that the planning board does not have the power to grant. So in those instances, they send a recommendation to this board with respect to certain area variances. In this case, the area variances are the frontages on the 3 lots, reducing them, the request reduces from 100 to 88 frontage feet on each lot. I'd like to indicate to the board that each lot is well over the required 21,760 for half-acre zoning. Each is at least 25,000 square feet. We don't think that this will negatively affect the character of the area or the neighborhood. There are other lots along Veterans Highway that have narrower frontages than 100 feet. The variance is not substantial given the fact where it's located, the depth of the lots. If the board would glance at the May 12, 2022 letter from the planning board did say that they recommended approval to the Board of Zoning Appeals, but had a caveat or condition that each lot shall provide a driveway with adequate area for vehicles to turn around in order to prevent cars from backing on Veterans Highway. This shall be done to the satisfaction of the planning department. We have no objection to that, and actually it makes a lot of sense to be able to turn around on your own property, especially when you're fronting on Veterans Highway. Is there any adequate alternative? Well, I guess the alternative would be to make 2 lots instead of 3 lots, but we do have sufficient area, and we don't think, again, that it would have any adverse effect on any of the neighboring properties. Does it have any effect on the environment? Well, again, the board knows with the new sanitary code requirements, these new houses will require the new type cesspools, which I am told cost about $25,000, and they have certain aeration systems and so forth. So they will have to conform to that particular requirement. So we ask the board for its favorable consideration. If the board has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No. Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Come on up, sir. Good evening.
Evening. Mendel Teldon, M-E-N-D-E-L, last name T-E-L-D-O-N. I am the resident across the street on Veterans Highway. I'm going to pull back up that picture. I'm directly across the street.
Can you use the microphone, please? So we can...
I live across the street from the property, and I would like to give my support to whatever they need to do to build those buildings. I think it's a great idea, and you guys should let it all go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? I don't think you want to come back, right, Mr. Tamarco? Okay. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18732, MTK 200 Crossways LLC, 380 Oser Avenue, Hauppauge. The location of the property, the north side of Oser Avenue, 1,132 feet west of Parkway Drive South. The property is zoned LI. The applicant is requesting a special exception for a trucking station, a variance to reduce the minimum parking spaces from 145 to 59, a variance to increase the maximum height of a building from 35 feet to 46 feet, to reduce the side yard setback from 20 feet to 15 feet for proposed 25,300 square foot warehouse with 4,370 square feet of second floor office.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the applicant, Brian Kennedy. I'm with the law firm of Forcelli, Deegan, Tirana. Office is at 333 Earl Ovington Boulevard, Suite 1010, Uniondale, New York. Present with me this evening are Joel Richardson of H2M Engineering, Jay Panzarino, Director of Facilities and Operations for E&M Ice Cream, Inc., and Tom Marshall, Executive Vice President and General Counsel for the applicant. The applicant is before this board seeking 3 variances and a special exception permit as part of an application to modernize the subject property. Subject property is located at 380 Oser Avenue within the Hauppauge Industrial Park and is surrounded by industrial uses on all sides. The applicant's proposed site plan seeks to demolish the existing warehouse and replace it with a state-of-the-art refrigerated warehouse. Existing at the site is an approximately 20,000 square foot warehouse that has sat vacant for some time. The applicant's proposed new warehouse will be approximately 25,300 square feet with approximately 4,300 square feet of office space. Now, if approved, the warehouse will be occupied by E&M Ice Cream Distributors Incorporated, who will use this facility for cold storage of products prior to delivery throughout the Long Island area. In a few moments, I will ask Mr. Jay Panzarino to speak to the board regarding the site operations, but before doing so, I'd like to briefly address the 3 requested variances. The proposed site plan maintains a similar footprint to what currently exists at the site. However, the redevelopment will require a minor side yard setback along the eastern portion of the site. The proposed setback is 15 feet, where 20 feet is required. Now, granting this requested variance will allow the applicant to eliminate some of the existing pavement that exists along the eastern portion of the property and replace it with additional screening. Now, as for the building height, the proposed building is 46 feet, where 35 feet is permitted. Now, this parcel falls partially in the Hauppauge Industrial Overlay Zone, and I'll note for this board that if this parcel was located entirely within that zone, the applicant would be permitted to build a building of 50 feet without any variances. Now, as noted earlier, this site is adjacent to commercial and industrial uses, and the requested height variance is similar to many buildings throughout the industrial park. Now, as for the parking variance, while the requested variance may appear substantial, the site can more than accommodate the parking demand on site. In a moment, you'll hear from Mr. Panzarino, who works for the applicant, and he'll describe the operations of the site. But most importantly, he will point out that there will only be 24 employees on site at a time, and there will be no traffic from the community accessing this warehouse. Now, there will be trucks that will be loaded on site and leave the facility. The drivers of those trucks stored at the site will have staggered start times beginning between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m. before delivering goods throughout Long Island. These drivers will arrive via public transportation or their personal vehicles. And when arriving by a personal vehicle, the drivers will pull up to the site, get into a preloaded van, leave the site, and then pull their vehicle into the spot that was previously occupied by the loaded vehicle, by the loaded truck. Now, staggering delivery driver start times will avoid any parking congestion at the beginning or end of shifts. Now, as this board knows, Town Code Section 322 sub 62 requires 1 parking stall per 500 square feet of warehouse space. This code provision was adopted over 30 years ago and does not accurately reflect the parking demand for modern-day warehouses, such as the facility that is proposed at the subject site. Modern warehouses have significantly reduced manpower and therefore have reduced parking demands from those that existed at the time this zoning code was adopted. Several nearby municipalities have amended their parking requirements to more accurately reflect the current parking need of modern warehouses. For example, Town of Hempstead and the Town of Islip have significantly lower parking demands for warehouses of this type. Now, at this point, I'll ask Mr. Richardson of H2M to speak briefly about the site plan that is before this board.
Good evening.
Good evening. Joel Richardson, H2M Architects and Engineers. It's 538 Broad Hollow Road, Melville, 11747.
Thank you.
I'm a civil engineer with H2M. I prepared the site plan. The site is 2 acres. It's existing configuration. The proposed building is significantly the same as what is existing on the site currently. There is a parking and access drive towards the western half of the property, west of the existing building. More or less, the proposed layout for the site mimics the existing condition. It's a new building, new parking area. We are eliminating 1 curb cut and paved area to the east of the building, between the existing building and the easterly property line. We're proposing to provide 59 passenger vehicle parking spaces, meeting the ADA requirements for parking. The parking and drive aisles are all compliant with Smithtown's dimensional requirements for parking areas. In addition to the passenger vehicle parking spaces, we provide 24 parking spaces for box-type delivery trucks. Each parking space is provided with an electrical charging station so that box trucks can be refrigerated while they're parked. We provided the proposed building with 4 loading bays, 3 of which are 75 feet deep, and we sized those for a WB67 tractor trailer type vehicle. Perform some vehicle turning maneuvers through the property to make sure that the loading bays and parking areas were properly sited so they could be accessed. The 4th loading bay is smaller and appropriately sized for the box type trucks, the small box trucks. I will also mention that prior to making application to the building department and to this board, we did meet with the planning department and solicited some feedback from planning, including a suggestion from planning to move the building further to the east, which required the side yard setback. But we incorporated all the suggestions, recommendations, feedback that we got from planning into the site plan that's been submitted before you tonight.
Okay. Let me just ask you a question.
Sure.
You said that the entire warehouse is refrigerated?
The warehouse is refrigerated, yes.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. I'll let
Okay.
speak to the entirety of the warehouse. There might be some unrefrigerated portions of the warehouse, but
Okay.
the warehouse is refrigerated for ice cream storage.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd ask Mr. Panzarino to testify to answer some of the board's questions.
Good evening.
Pleasure to be here with all you ladies and gentlemen. We are a...
You just state your name.
Oh, sure. Jay, last name Panzarino. Address 2476 South 10th Street, Allentown, Pennsylvania, 18103.
Did you get the spelling? Okay.
All right. Good evening.
Good evening.
We are an essential food delivery company. We bring frozen food, fresh food, and beverages to all of the CVS's, Rite Aids, Key Foods, all of the chains throughout the metro Long Island area. We're planning to build this building and hire 24 new employees out here in Long Island. We're trying not to interfere with the traffic flow, so we're going to stagger our trucks leaving in the morning. They'll be leaving between 5, 6, and 7, returning between 3:30, 4:30, 5. We are a refrigerated and frozen warehouse. We have ice cream, fresh foods, and we're going to be dry storage also. Any questions?
You have a large emergency generator?
We have an emergency generator on call. When we had Sandy hit, we had an emergency generator connected in 4 hours.
Okay. Because I know ice cream melts very quickly.
Well, I have a lot of spoons.
He's the only one that has it?
Any questions for me?
Anybody have any?
I don't think so.
No.
Thank you very much.
You want to conclude, or? Okay.
I would just like to point out that Mr. Should this board approve the requested application, the existing operations are currently located in Paterson, New Jersey, and will be relocated to the industrial park if approved. So, in conclusion, I will just quickly wrap up. The requested relief is not substantial. The applicant engaged in several preliminary meetings with the planning department to craft the site plan that is before this board. We believe that it is a strong application. The minimal setback variance will decrease the impervious area that already exists on the site and will have no negative impact on the adjacent property owners. The requested parking variance, well, again, it may appear substantial. The site can more adequately address any parking demand that will be presented. The requested building height is consistent with what is permitted throughout the Hauppauge Industrial Park. Granting the requested variances will not result in a negative impact on the surrounding neighborhood, which is an industrial park already. While there may be alternatives that would not require variances, those options are not viable for the applicant at this time and his current business operation. Without the requested variances, the applicant would need to find another facility that could meet their needs. While the need for variance may be self-created, that should not be dispositive to this board. I will note that as the planning board's recommendation indicated, the applicant meets all of the special exception requirements, and I can go through those for the board if they would like me to. Otherwise, I'll
Not
welcome
necess-
any questions.
Not necessary.
Okay.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No.
No, thank you.
Planning?
Planning prepared a planning advisory report upon review of the application, and we recommended approval of the request.
Right, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Is there anyone here? James and Margaret Kilker? No?
Sure. What's that? Oh, this? Yeah. I like this.
The 28th?
Fall.
All right. Case number 18706, James and Margaret Kilker. That has been adjourned to June 28th. And that concludes our meeting for this evening.